Okay, can everybody hear me okay? Just give like a nod or something. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Before anything else, I want to mention that tonight's class is sponsored by Janet Rottenberg, Mindy and Shmuel Tolchinsky, Simi and Sammy Franco, and Jerry Rottenberg, in commemoration of the Yortzeit of Mel Rottenberg, Menachem Mendel ben Tzvi Yehuda Zichrono Livracha, whose Yortzeit is the 9th of Nisan. I just would like to say a word for a moment. There are certain people about whom it can be said that really whatever we do here in the shul is always a merit for their neshamos. And I think it's very fair to say that Mel Rottenberg Zichrono Livracha is one of those people. He was really part of a unique cadre of individuals that I think really could have been looked at as Rabbi or as partners in so much he did, whether it be in the shul, whether it be in the yeshiva. So, by the way, he was the president when the building in which I'm sitting right now was built for the shul. So it's extremely appropriate for us as a shul to be able to participate in doing something as a merit for his neshama. But to state the obvious, the greatest chus he has in this community is not the shul, but it's the wonderful family that Kana'inahara continues to flourish, and so much in our community, and each of his children are really a unique credit to our community, and grandchildren are credit to various communities in Klal Yisrael. So we thank the Rottenberg family, and we wish Mrs. Rottenberg Tibadu L'chaim continued nachas from her beautiful family, and this should be a schus for his neshama. Okay, as always, I want to thank Miriam Friedman for keeping me on task. Those who are regulars in this class know by now that if not for Miriam, I think I'd be coming around to the Hanukkah class around now. That would be behind schedule. So we thank her very much for both being a resource for people who want to pass questions on to me, and doing a tremendous amount behind the scenes, and doing the lovely flyers, by the way, just in case people didn't know. Okay, without further ado, I want to get started on the questions. I thank all the people who sent in questions. We actually don't have that many questions that were sent in, but my guess is that once we get started, people's thoughts will be charged by questions that are brought up. The format is I first will go through all the questions that are submitted. At that point, people should feel free to start submitting further questions. I mean, you're welcome to submit questions by chat throughout, but I'm going to only go to the chat after I get through the list. And then once we're done with the chat, I'll be happy to take call out questions as well. Okay. How does it work with searching for chametz and destroying the chametz if leaving your house before Erev Chag? Okay, that's a very important question, one with applications for many individuals. So here's the story. There's an obligation from the rabbis to check our houses for chametz. That is standardly done the night before Pesach. Pesach this year is on Friday night, begins on Friday night. So the night for Bedika would be Thursday night. In normal circumstances, I do Bedika Thursday night, and I destroy the chametz Friday morning. That's how it works. Let's say I'm not around Thursday night. Let's say I've already gone out of town. What's the story? So the basic halacha is that even if I'm not home on the night of B'dikas Chametz, I still have an obligation to search my house for chametz. The rabbis instituted that I should search my house at night, whether it be that people are home, whether it be that candlelight or whatever other light source I might be using sort of moves better or kind of casts itself better. So the bottom line is that the last night on which I'm home is the night that I have the obligation to do B'dikas Chametz. Now, if I do B'dikas Chametz in the normal night, Thursday night, I make a bracha before I do the B'dika. Then I proceed to do the B'dika, and then I say the Kol Chamira, the nullification of the Chametz. If I'm leaving before Thursday night, I do not make the bracha when I do the B'dika. So if I'm leaving on Wednesday and I do the B'dika Tuesday night, I do not make the bracha before the B'dika, but I still say the Kol Chamira. Now, when am I supposed to dispose of that chametz? So so if I'm leaving early, so I did the bedika and I have chametz that I found in the bedika, when am I supposed to dispose of it? If I do it the normal way that I do bedika Thursday night, so then I dispose of the chametz Friday morning. What if I'm doing the bedika Tuesday night because I'm going out of town Wednesday morning? So really, there are two options. Theoretically speaking, the ideal thing to do would be to take the chametz with me and dispose of the chametz Friday morning. Emphasis on theoretically. I think it's good that many people's videos are off because my assumption is that at least a quarter of the people might have fallen out of their chairs just now with the thought of having to take the chametz with them on a trip. It's not, doesn't make us particularly calm, particularly not in this season. So I will say that it is also okay for a person to destroy the chametz before they leave out of town as well. But I do want to be clear that the kol chamira that is said when we destroy the chametz is only said Friday morning. If I destroy the chametz before I leave out of town, I destroy the chametz Wednesday morning, that's fine. I do not say the kol chamira when I destroy the chametz Wednesday morning. I do say the kol chamira when I search Tuesday night. But the destroying chametz kol chamira can only be said Friday morning, and it can be said whether or not I'm destroying chametz at that time. Okay, I hope that all made sense. I want to share a very reasonable question that someone posed to me this week, actually, and that is, I'm not going to be around Friday morning, but I am going to be around Thursday night. So the bedika is supposed to be done Thursday night. I'm going to be around Thursday night, but I'm leaving before the crack of dawn Friday morning. So I'm not around to destroy the chametz Friday morning. When am I supposed to do the bedika? So that's a great question. And really, if I'm home Thursday night, I'm really, really supposed to do the bedika Thursday night. If it's not possible for me to destroy the chametz Friday morning, I would say a person can destroy the chametz Thursday night if need be. It's far from ideal. Ideally, a person would destroy the chametz Friday morning. But more important than destroying the chametz Friday morning is doing the bedika at the appropriate time. So I hope that made sense to everybody. And if not, please put something in the chat and we'll get back to it later. Okay. Next question, a great, great question. Food sometimes gets under the fridge, under furniture. The person also mentions in the oven door. How much effort does one need to make to get it out? For example, does one need to move the furniture? Great, important question. The basic idea of why we're destroying our chametz. Remember, we're doing a lot. We nullify the chametz. We search for the chametz. The basic idea of why we're searching for chametz and destroying chametz that we don't set aside to sell is because the rabbis, want to make sure. It could be that when I nullify the chametz, I'm not saying it as wholeheartedly as I should. It's one possibility. But also the rabbis are worried I'll forget myself and I'll come to eat the chametz. That's part of why we physically destroy the chametz. If there's chametz that's really not accessible, right? I mean, a person would have to be A, pretty hungry, B, pretty bored to move the refrigerator to access the Cheerios behind the refrigerator, right? I think so. I think so. So pieces of furniture that one would not normally move, and one doesn't have access underneath the furniture without moving the furniture, I do not see one as being obligated to move heavy pieces of furniture to clean for chametz. Having said that, the Rosenbaum family couches get moved on a regular basis because all you need is a little person to tell me, hey, I dropped a toy behind there, or I dropped a book behind there, or whatever. So couches, we absolutely should be moving. At least in my household, we should absolutely be moving to clean the chametz behind there because we could easily be going behind the couch on Pesach, 100%, underneath the bed, things like that, etc. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all answer, though I do feel pretty passionately that one should not be moving the refrigerator to clean for Pesach. But smaller pieces of furniture, again, if a person never moves their couch, and they don't have access underneath their couch or behind their couch, I don't think they need to move it. But if things readily get moved or there's access is very easy, I would be worried about that. In the oven door is a complicated one. If it's really, really stuck and it's not exposed in any way, and it's not like steam is coming out of it or anything like that, and it's not easy to get to, I don't think you have to start removing the oven door and doing this and doing that. But if it is exposed, then I think a person should be cleaning, around the edge of the oven door. I hope that made sense. But if a person is taking apart their oven, I think that's too much. Okay. Okay. Really, really interesting question. I hope I'm understanding it correctly. If not, please put it in the chat and we'll get back to it later. Can you use something that had chametz on it for Pesach? I'm sorry. Can you use something that had chametz on it on Pesach? For example, a plastic drain board. So imagine the following situation. I've got a plastic drain board. I use it all the time. When I'm washing my Pesach dishes, I use it all the time. When I'm washing my chametz dishes, I use it all the time throughout the year. I don't know. It's a good drain board. May I use it on Pesach? So there's a few variables here. One is to state the obvious. If to even start this conversation, it better be completely clean, completely clean. And that's true on two levels. One is I'm not supposed to have chametz lying around my house. The second is even infinitesimal amounts, small amounts of chametz getting into my food is a very serious prohibition of Pesach. So if there's one or two rooms that I'm exceptionally careful about for Pesach, it should be the kitchen or the dining room. I don't have to be sitting there cleaning the drapes, but I really should make sure that there's not little crumbs around in a place that might get on my plates, my cutlery, so on and so forth. So for this conversation to even begin, it would have to be that a person felt that the drain board was utterly spotless, completely not a crumb to be seen or even not to be seen, to be honest with you. Now, if that was the case, there'd be another issue, which is that if the plates are placed on the drain board when they're very hot, some people, wash very, very hot when they're washing dishes. They place it on the drain board. Then you could have questions about absorption of chametz, and then it goes from the chametz to Pesach dishes. So my guess is plastic drain board is probably not the best idea for the different reasons which I mentioned, but it's theoretically possible. But there are definitely some hoops to jump through. But if we're trying to make a less stressful Pesach preparation, we're probably better off staying away from the drain board. But it's possible, but you'd have to really satisfy the various conditions which we just mentioned. Okay, another really interesting question. Does a table on a deck have to be cleaned for Pesach? It's outside, so the rain presumably cleans it off. And if there are crumbs on it, birds or other animals would eat them. So that's a really interesting question. There is a concept in halacha, for furniture areas that are outside, if you have justified reason to believe that whatever crumbs are there would be consumed, would be gone for one reason or another, it is okay to assume that. I think it would be a good idea, certainly if a person used it relatively recently, or even if not, it's probably a good idea to maybe look over there this week, just make sure there's not stuff around. But assuming that it makes sense that the stuff should be gone. If it's gone, it's gone, and if it's logical that it's gone, that would be reasonable. There is definitely an assumption halach in places where birds and other animals are found that you can assume that they've consumed chametz if it makes sense in context. If one wants to picnic in a park, is it okay to use the tables there? Okay, that's a great question. It sort of fits in a little bit into the drain board question as follows. If I'm eating hot food and I'm putting it anywhere near the putting it anywhere near the table, it's really not a good idea. It's really, really not a good idea. But assuming for a second that things aren't hot, if the table is clean, and I would definitely recommend covering the surface that I'm eating on. So, for example, if you could imagine a picnic table, you could imagine sitting, eating, going to a museum on Pesach, and wanting to eat something in the snack area. So in that scenario, if I were doing that, I believe what I would do is first I would, again, assuming everything is cold, first I would just look at the table and make sure it's clean in the first place. If it's not clean, it's okay for me to clean it off. It's okay for me to brush off things and stuff like that. But even after that, I probably would lay out something on the surface of the table. I don't mean I would bring a tablecloth with me, but for example, if I came with a shopping bag or something, I probably would sort of lay my shopping bag out as sort of a mini placemat, and then eat over the placemat. But if I did that and it looked clean, I think that would be reasonable. I think so. Okay. Before we switch gears to the next range of questions, I want to call everyone's attention to, there was a cyber brief that went out, and thank you so much to Menashe Katz. I don't think we can thank Menashe Katz enough times, enough ways, for all the things he circulates for us. I'm almost as bad. I probably am as bad to Menashe as I am to Miriam. I frequently send things to him at the last minute. I ask him if he could circulate it. So one of the many things Menashe has been kind enough to circulate in the last day or two is it's titled the Pesach pamphlet. It was a cyber brief. I think there were 3 things in the cyber brief. One of them was called the Pesach pamphlet. It's an attachment. It came out either today or yesterday. And in it is essentially the equivalent for those who are used to coming to this class in person, the pre-Pesach class. It's the equivalent of that booklet that I give out at the pre-Pesach class. We're not talking about the Shomer. It seems Menashe is sharing the file. Thank you very much. So in that, which I'd encourage you to look at, whether it be when Menashe is sharing it now or just on your own time, I have like a cover letter at the beginning, and then after that is forgive me for not sharing the document, but I don't have the access on my computer right now. But a 4-page document at the beginning of the pamphlet that looks like this. This is the wonderful CRC shopping guide, and it's just a wonderful resource for just a quick, does this need to be kosher Pesach? Does it not need to be kosher Pesach? I really love it. Okay, so without further ado, there's a question asked about nuts. So first of all, a reminder that peanuts are Kittenios. Standard practice for Ashkenazim is not to eat Kittenios on Pesach, so peanuts are out. Regarding other types of nuts, so the CRC says that pecans, if they're shelled pecans, really need to be marked as kosher Pesach. Other nuts, including chopped nuts, are acceptable without certification if they are free of BHA and BHT and not blanched, roasted, or ground. So that's the story with nuts. The next question is about lentils, Lentils are Kittenios, so we do not, Ashkenazim will not eat lentils on Pesach. And the final question is about quinoa. I don't know about any of you. I remember, I don't know how many Pesachs it was ago, 5 Pesachs ago, 10 Pesachs ago. I heard these people talking about this quinoa thing. I couldn't even figure out how to pronounce it. Who needs from quinoa? Who wants from quinoa? Little would I know how much I would eat it year round. Baruch Hashem. There's a little bit of disagreement about it among the organizations, but it's I think it's pretty much accepted at this point that quinoa is acceptable for Pesach. It's not a problem of Kittenios, but it needs to be marked as kosher Pesach. Generally speaking, there are kosher Pesach quinoas available, probably in the kosher type of stores, but it's pretty much accepted that quinoa is not Kittenios at this point. Okay, another product question. There has been different opinions over the years about using fresh garlic. There have been years in the near past that, okay, so the person wants to know what the story is with fresh garlic. I can't tell you that I checked every organization, but I think the CRC is extremely reliable. The CRC says that fresh garlic is fine, does not need to be marked as kosher l'Pesach. The CRC does mention that peeled garlic, whether it be in jars or cans, should be marked as kosher l'Pesach. That's what the CRC says about garlic. Now, a person is asking about bags of lettuce, iceberg lettuce, romaine lettuce. So it's interesting. So you get slightly different opinions over here. Not such different opinions, but slightly different opinions. The Star K, as of now, is telling people that they shouldn't use bagged salads and lettuce and things like that unless it's marked as kosher for Pesach. Now, this is a recorded statement, so I'm going out on a big limb here. But the bottom line is, I can't tell you to disregard that because the Star K is extremely reliable and extremely thorough. But what I will tell you is many, many years closer to Pesach, the Star K comes out with an announcement that at least the bag salads that it certifies, you don't have to have it be kosher for Pesach marked. I am not telling you to disregard their instructions about kosher for Pesach. I am not saying that. But what I am saying, as the rain is pounding in the background, maybe the sun will come out tomorrow. That's now I'm saying the sun will come out tomorrow. I'm not singing the sun will come out tomorrow because I have way too much respect for all of you. But that's what the Star K's advice is. The CRC says something a little bit more lenient. The CRC says that you should really be getting kosher for Pesach bagged salad. But if you can't get your hands on kosher for Pesach bagged salad, as long as it doesn't have sensitive additives and you're sure it doesn't have Kittenios and you bought it before Pesach, you can buy it. So it's a little complicated. To be honest with you, I'm hoping the Star K comes out with an announcement closer to Pesach saying that it doesn't have to be marked kosher for Pesach. Just so people know, for all my being difficult here, it's the Star K, what they're doing is they're sort of assessing the different runs and seeing what's being needed to be used for the runs and this and that. So it's not, they're not being wishy-washy, but I hope I answered that question about lettuce and the like. Okay, what decaf tea and decaf coffee instant are available? The general rule of thumb, but we're going to say an exception in a second. The general rule of thumb is that decaf tea and decaf coffee have to be marked as kosher for Pesach, but there is an interesting thing that Lipton decaffeinated tea bags evidently are okay even without kosher for Pesach marking. So that's interesting. Okay. Next question. If one does not eat Kittenios on Passover, what's the latest time that one may eat it on Erev Pesach? That's a great question. So a person has a Kittenios product. By the way, I want to be very clear about this. Even Sephardim, we eat Kittenios, you have to make sure it's actually kosher for Pesach. In other words, you can't just say, oh, it's rice, it must be okay. The same way that there's all kinds of products that don't have wheat in them. And we don't just buy it, we make sure it's marked kosher for Pesach. So, but if you have a Kittenios product that's kosher for Pesach, but it's Kittenios, when's the last time you can eat it? The standard practice among Ashkenazim is the same time we stop eating chametz. That's also the time we stop eating Kittenios. That's the story with that. There is a question that was submitted. Will there be a dumpster this year? Yes, Baruch Hashem. Very special thanks to Josh Breitstein. There will be a dumpster this year. Thank you to his efforts for it. I'm sure there's information in this past week's Shabbos Shorts. I'm sure there's information in this coming week's Shabbos Shorts will be. If I remember correctly, the dumpster is going to be available sometime on Wednesday. I don't remember the exact time. Double check me, please. But as always, I urge you, we here in Camp Mill at least have garbage pickup on Monday morning. However much chametz garbage you could get into your Monday morning garbage pickup, please do. And then please, segregate your chametz versus non-chametz garbage from Monday and on, so as not to unnecessarily fill up the dumpster, because that's really for chametz. Thank God there are many people in Camp Mill. Our shul is doing it. Our shul is doing it jointly with KMS. There's a lot of people. Also, just to clarify, mattresses and the like are not chametz and need not be placed in the chametz dumpster. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm not even going to check the CRC guide for that one. Okay. Okay. Now, the last question that I just want to address that was not submitted, but numerous people have been asking me in the last few days, and I hope I don't bring people too much aggravation on this one. I am not doing an online form for Mechiras Chametz this year. I just want to explain why. The reason I'm not doing an online form for Mechiras Chametz, it's really most appropriate to do an active transaction, appointing me as your proxy. That really should be done in person. For the last 2 years, we had online because of COVID concerns. There are specific times that I've sort of put out there that I'll make myself available for Mechiras Chametz arrangements. If those times are not good, or it's difficult for you to get to me, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to make another time, another way to meet up, but I really would rather do it in person than online. If you're really stuck, we'll figure something out. But that's the story with that. I'm sure some of us got very used to it. I hope I'm not bringing people too much distress, but I do think it's the appropriate thing to do. I'd be happy to meet with people outside. I'd be happy if people want to make arrangements wearing masks. Any of those things, I'd be happy to do. If people are homebound, I'm happy to do my utmost to try to come to your house. I might even bring a mattress to put. No, I'm just joking about that. But if people are homebound, I'd love to try to come by your house. But I would like to make the arrangements for Mechiras Chametz in person this year. Okay, we are now going to begin the chat box. Okay, thank you very much for submitting the question about the Costco frozen salmon. I'm going to read to you from the OU guide. Okay, the following types of Kirkland signature salmon products do not need an OUP. If it has an OU, you can use it for Pesach. Here we go. Frozen, skinless, boneless, farmed Atlantic salmon portions. Skinless, boneless, farmed Atlantic salmon portions. That was one. Skinless, boneless, farmed Atlantic salmon portions. I guess whether frozen or not frozen. Skinless, boneless, wild sockeye salmon portions. And for that matter, tilapia loins. Okay? All those the OU is saying, even if it doesn't have a kosher for Pesach marking on it, the fact that it's OU, you may purchase it you may use it for Pesach. Okay, the question is posed, what items may be purchased during Sfiras HaOmer? Of course, what the questioner means is the period that one is marking as a period of mourning during Sfiras HaOmer. The general rule is anything. There is an idea of not buying things during the mourning period that one would make a shechiyanu on. To make a shechiyanu on something is a very special thing. It's a very exciting purchase. Again, everyone's different. When I buy a suit, I don't make a shechiyanu on it because I buy suits a lot. There's not many garments that I would tell people to make a shechiyanu on. Not many purchases. If a person buys a very exciting car, a very exciting piece of furniture, one might make a shechiyanu on it. If you're really in a pinch, you could buy that during the Omer also. But there's a concept of not buying that during the Omer. But besides that, really no restrictions on purchasing during the Omer. Okay, thank you. Thank you for those questions. Okay, there's a question posed about cough medicine. Now, the next page in the pamphlet that Menashe was kind enough to circulate is this page. This page, I'm sure it looks familiar to the Shul veterans. And this is a page from the CRC, which I would recommend as the golden rule. And thank you so much, Menashe. And I would recommend that as thank you, Menashe. I would recommend that as the golden rule. And one of the things it puts in there is that liquid medications should really be avoided on Pesach in normal circumstances, unless you know that it's not a chametz issue. If it's very important, I would strongly recommend discussing with me offline, but the questioner is asking about a very specific product that I just want to check in my list. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Okay. At least the list that I have here does not list that product of Delsum one way or the other. So the questioner, let's talk about it offline about your specific circumstances. But that would be an example of a liquid medication that one really should ascertain whether or not it's chametz, and if one can't ascertain that, then it's more of a shaila. Okay. Okay. Okay, without going into all the details and the good humor in the question as well, a person followed up on the dish rack question. Evidently, if a dish rack was made from metal and not plastic, made exclusively from metal, would there be a way to kasher a dish rack before Pesach? If it was made from metal and not plastic, you could kasher it, yes. I don't want to take too much time discussing how that would work, but the short answer is yes, but I would not say you could kasher it if it was plastic. Okay, that is that. Wow, okay, great. So is it any surprise that Barbara Price has a wonderful practical answer to dealing with the park picnic table? So thank you very much Barbara brings a clear plastic disposable tablecloth. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miriam. Miriam Friedman just submitted a point that in general, quinoa should be checked right now for bugs. There are some bug issues right now with infestations. That's not a Pesach issue, but thank you. Great question. Okay, so back to the drain board question. Let's say a person used it to dry their dishes 5 years ago, and since then they've been using it. They keep plants on the drain board. So if they keep plants on the drain board, that should be fine. They can keep on doing it over Pesach. They should make sure that there's no chametz on the drain board. But my guess is if they're keeping plants there probably isn't chametz on the drain board. But yeah, that should be fine. We're concerned about absorption if you're going to use it in a context that there'll be absorption and taste transfer, like with great heat and things like that. Okay, that's an important question. I would say romaine lettuce should be checked before Yom Tov, and romaine lettuce should not be checked on Yom Tov. I would say that. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. Okay, so here's the story. Linda, thank you. Thank you for submitting that question. Okay. So what are we talking about with bagged lettuce anyway? Are we talking about bugs? Are we talking about chametz? What are we talking about? And the answer is yes. In other words, what we mean is like this. The reason why you can't just take a bag of lettuce and just do whatever you do with it is because of bug concerns. Now, if you want to check your bugs, if you want to check your lettuce for bugs on your own, great, there are ways to do it. check online. There's all kinds of suggested methods from different conscious organizations. Go for it. But if you don't want to go to the trouble of doing it, then many of us like to buy bagged products that have some kind of certification on them that there's this tried and true method, or that they checked that specific run and the method worked very well, and you can use it without checking it, and without. Some of them say you have to do this with it. Some of them say you have to do that with it. But the bottom line is you don't have to sit there checking it. So some of the items, ingredients, whatever used in the treatment of that lettuce might create chametz or Kittenios concerns. So that's the sort of how the 2 points come together. Okay, hold on 1 second. Someone just put a question out to me. I'm embarrassed to say the person, I'm just not remembering. I'm really sorry. The person who asked about, and it's not on my list here, person asked about, give me 1 more second. Let me just check one more list, if you don't mind. Yeah. Person asked about silly putty. Yeah, I if you don't mind getting back to me offline, I just don't remember. I don't think it's a problem, but I'm not 100% sure. If you check back with me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, great question. Thank you, Sima. What's the story with paper goods? So you get different opinions about that. I would encourage you to go with the CRC. CRC says paper products are fine, including bags, cups, napkins, plates, wax paper, may be used for hot or cold. So I would just encourage you to go ahead. And also, they say that plastic cutlery and plates are okay. They say styrofoam plates are okay. So I would encourage you to go in that direction. Okay. And I don't think they're stating any concerns about patterns. Oh, thank you for the dumpster information, Menashe. Okay, thank you very much. Someone asked, what's the story with vitamins and supplements? So medicines, I just want to give a little bit of the rationale for a second, just so people can relate to it a little bit easier. So there's a halacha as follows. If something is prohibited to consume on Pesach, okay, if something is prohibited to consume on Pesach, if it's chametz or whatever it is, I'm not allowed to consume it. Let's say I'm eating it in an abnormal way. Let's say I'm taking the chametz and I'm swallowing it whole. Okay, so that's an abnormal way. Now it's still prohibited. I'm not allowed to take a little cookie and swallow it. I'm prohibited from doing that on Pesach, but I'm prohibited in that from the rabbis, not from the Torah. Statement number 1. So if I eat something in an abnormal manner, it's a rabbinic prohibition on Pesach, not a Torah prohibition. Now, when a person is a cholet, when a person is considered ill, the rabbis waive that restriction. So that means that regular prescription drugs that a person takes on a regular basis, or that even if a person doesn't take it on a regular basis, but that if they were to skip it, certainly over the course of Pesach, they could have a setback, they could be not well, they could be in terrible pain. As long as it's in a pill form and it's not flavored, you can just take it on Pesach. At least that's what the CRC would say, because, and that's what I would encourage you to go with, because the person will become ill if they don't take it, and they're eating it in not the normal way to eat chametz. They're swallowing it whole. Okay. Now, does that apply to aspirin? If a person has a medical need to take aspirin daily, yes, as long as it's something that they swallow. If a person has a slight headache that's not a big deal, then they should be using aspirin that they know is chametz free. Okay. If a person has a migraine headache, or a person has terrible pain in a part of their body, debilitating pain, or will have debilitating pain if they don't take a pill, then I would tell them they could take a pill that's swallowed. Okay, so that's all for A, prescription medication, B, for medication that a person is taking in some level of significant need. Doesn't have to be, heaven forbid, life or death, but that a person is going to be in significant discomfort if they don't take it. What about vitamins? So what they normally recommend with these organizations is that the vitamins should be taken. The vitamins, a person should consult their local rabbi for vitamins and supplements, even if it's something that's swallowed. There are certain vitamins, I've already had conversations with people. There are certain vitamins that I would say to a person, as long as it's in a pill form, for you, for the situation you described, you should take it. There are other vitamins that I've said to people, if it's not going to be a big deal to skip it for a week, and you're confident it's not a big deal to skip it for a week, unless you know that it's like a chametz-free product or something, I would tell you to take it. I would tell you to skip it. So vitamins and supplements, I would really say, are sort of case by case. I hope that answered the question, or, whatever. Sorry, couldn't be more informative. Okay, great. What, if anything, is the halachic relevance of the Seder being on Friday night? Okay, so thank you for that. That's a great question. I want to say, to the best of my knowledge, three things that are different because the Seder is on Friday night. I wanted to come up with a fourth to have a whole manishtana, but whatever. Okay, so one thing is the level of obligation for Kiddush on Friday night is a loftier obligation than it is on Yom Tov night. Okay, and therefore we're a little bit stricter about the shear, about the measurement of the cup that I use for the first of the 4 cups. The measurement that I put in Hashomer, there are definitely opinions that are larger than this, probably opinions that are smaller than this, but the measurement that I put in Hashomer for the first cup Friday night is 3.8 fluid ounces. Okay. Now, if I remember correctly, the measurement I put in Hashomer for the last 3 cups Friday night and for all 4 cups Saturday night is 3.3 fluid ounces. Okay. Now, does that mean that everybody at your Seder has to have a 3.8 fluid ounce cup? No, it does not mean that. What it means is for the first cup Friday night, you have a choice. You can either give everybody a 3.8 fluid ounce cup, and if you give everybody a 3.8 fluid ounce cup, then everybody can do their own thing during Kiddush, and you don't have to have everybody being Yotzei with the Kiddush of one person at the Seder. Okay, but if you don't want to have 3.8 fluid ounce cups for everybody, all you really need to do is have one person have a 3.8 fluid ounce cup for the first cup, and that person should make Kiddush on everyone's behalf. So everyone should have their 3.3 fluid ounce cups, fill it up before Kiddush, and then this one person with the 3.8 fluid ounce cup makes Kiddush for everyone. That means everyone's listening to that person. You're having in mind to be Yotzei Kiddush with that person, and then you've covered both bases. Kiddush was made from a cup holding 3.8 fluid ounces, and everybody else is drinking from a 3.3 fluid ounce cup, which is good for the cups in general. I hope that answered that question. That's one difference that it's Friday night. The second difference that it's Friday night is, if at all possible, we're strongly encouraged to, more so than on Yom Tov, to make a salt water before Shabbos begins. That is the second difference. The third difference is, I just want to remind everybody that the way we use our ovens to warm food for the Seder is different when the Seder is on Friday night. It's not necessarily different, but you have less leeway. What do I mean by that? When the Seder is on Monday night, I don't know if the Seder can be a Monday night, but you get my point. When the Seder is on a regular weeknight, I can get up from the table in the middle of the Seder at whatever point of Magid I think it's appropriate. I can, I have to turn on my oven before Yom Tov, of course, but I could just put my food in the oven. Okay, I'm limited from doing that on Shabbos. We normally say I can't just put my food in the oven on Shabbos. I can have my food in the oven before Shabbos, but that's a long time. I can put my food on a hot plate, but I want to remind everybody that even if it's on a hot plate, if it's a liquidous thing, I may not put it on a hot plate on Shabbos itself. I may put it on a hot plate before Shabbos, right? And if it's a dry thing, and again, there's all these different types of hot plates. I don't want to go way down the road, but if it's the type of hot plate that I could put something on Shabbos, and it's a dry, fully cooked thing, I could do that. But that's really that. In a sense, that might be the most significant difference to think about when planning for the Seder. Okay. Wow, great question. Friend has trash pickup on Friday afternoon. May I put stuff in her bin Friday morning? Friday's Erev Pesach, of course. So now, here's the story. I'm prohibited from owning chametz after something like 10:40. I don't remember the exact time, but something like that. Somewhere in that ballpark, 10:30, 10:40. I'm prohibited, no. I'm prohibited from something like 11:40, something like that. Whatever the time is, I may not own chametz past that time. So the big question is my friend Jewish or not Jewish? So if my friend is not Jewish, and of course I should ask them, I shouldn't just stuff things in another person's garbage can. If my friend is not Jewish, and they don't mind if I put chametz in their garbage can, and I say to them, do you mind if I give you my garbage? It's not mine anymore, it's yours, I'm putting it in your garbage can. And they say, fine. As long as I do it before the time that I have to burn my chametz, I'm great, I'm set. If my friend is Jewish, I'm setting them up for a problem. I shouldn't be doing that, and probably it's my own problem also, by the way. Hope I answered that question. Once we're on the topic of garbage, okay, there are people who have their video off who are laughing right now because I'm talking about garbage again, but that's okay. Once we're on the topic of garbage, I just a little public service announcement. Thank God we're gonna have a dumpster for chametz garbage. There's an outlet for people. I really think it's not appropriate for us as a community to be finding public garbage cans in shopping areas and filling them up in a ridiculous way. Okay, I'm sure I'm not the only one who before Pesach can walk through the Campbell Shopping Center and see the ridiculous amounts of garbage streaming out. I'm sorry to use the words. I think it's a chalasha when we do that. So please, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but my guess is you'll agree with me. Okay, hold on one second. Let me look for a second. Question. The Star K lists children's suspension timeline. I think suspension just means the liquid, right? Am I correct about that, or am I incorrect about that? Hope I'm right about that. Right, yeah, okay, thank you. They list the children's liquid, all flavors, as being okay, of Tylenol. Children's Tylenol as being okay. I should also say that the Star K lists children's Benadryl, all flavors liquid being okay, and the grape chewables being okay. Okay, so I think that's helpful information for people. I hope it's helpful. Thank you for that question. Okay. I was talking about what I would make a shechianu on or not make a shechianu. So I said, if I bought a suit, I wouldn't make a shechianu. Someone said, yeah, if I bought a t-shirt, I probably would make a shechianu. That might be true. Okay, thank you. Okay, hold on one second. That's a very good question. Someone wants to know, may they buy fresh salmon from a non-kosher store on Pesach, before Pesach? What's the story with that? Again, we're not talking about frozen products. We're talking about just fresh salmon, not treated in different ways. I want to just make sure we're all on the same page because I don't want to be misunderstood here. In general, there's a halachic problem with buying fish unless it's under kosher certification, or if you can see the fins and scales. That's a general halach in Shulchan Aruch, statement number one. Statement number two, many opinions say that salmon's a different story. And the reason why salmon is a different story is the color of salmon is very unique. So we're concerned that a person who isn't diligent about kashrus will tell us it's a certain kosher fish when it's not. So we say, if it's not a kosher certified, unless I can see the fins and scales myself, I can't buy it. Salmon, many opinions today are lenient about because it's got such a unique color. So I just want to be clear. The question, I don't want to be misunderstood. The question that's being asked is very specifically about salmon. It's not about buying fresh tuna from a store, for example. It's specifically salmon. Now, I would recommend as follows. First of all, whenever people ask me about this, in terms of buying a fresh salmon from a store that's not kosher certified year-round, I tell them that what you have to do is along the entire surface that the cut is made for this piece of fish that you have to run it under cold water and rub it vigorously along the entire surface, out of concern that the knife which was used to cut the fish was used to cut a non-kosher fish. Okay, now that's advice I would give year round. I personally, if you're asking my opinion, I would tell you that you may purchase such fish and use it on Pesach, but I would personally recommend buying it before Pesach and doing that rubbing and washing under the sink in cold water before Pesach. Okay, I hope I answered that clearly. Thank you. I wouldn't make a shechianu on the shoes. Okay. Okay. I don't. I'm not going to check the guide for myself. Someone wrote to me that according to the OU guide, Folgers decaf and regular instant coffee with an OU do not require an OUP. I can't take responsibility for it, but I appreciate the information. Thank you. Okay, great question. What's the story with Kittenios medicine? There are various products that it'll say, well, there's no chametz in the product, but there's Kittenios in it. We are much more lenient on Kittenios than we are on chametz, okay? If a person has a medical need, they may partake of Kittenios on Pesach, okay? So, by the way, one of the most classic examples, I'm going to beat the questioners to it. No one has gotten to Tums yet, at least not that I've seen. So the Star K lists off various types of Tums. I don't know if they say it about all types of Tums, but the Star K lists off various types of Tums that they say are Kittenios. Someone did ask me in person, just not on this. I'm going to read off what they say really fast. Tums assorted fruit. They say is Kittenios. Tums EX assorted berries is Kittenios. Tums regular strength assorted fruit is Kittenios. Tums sugar-free is Kittenios. And those are the only ones I think they're vouching for on Pesach. Now, what that means, if I just like the taste of Tums, I shouldn't be having Tums on Pesach. But if I'm really having heartburn and it's really uncomfortable, not life and death uncomfortable, but significantly uncomfortable, or I have reason to believe if I don't take Tums, I'll have heartburn, which will make me significantly uncomfortable, I may take Kittenios on Pesach. If I need to be taking that cough syrup or my child needs to be taking it, or that aspirin or whatever it is, and the only issue is that it has Kittenios, if I'm talking about getting that medication anyway, it's reasonable to be using Kittenios on Pesach. I also want to say that for children who are very picky, there are certainly leniencies also in terms of Kittenios. But that maybe it's best to discuss offline. Now, the one thing to be aware of is if we use Kittenios for medicine and the like over Pesach, we just have to be very careful. If we used a utensil or a plate or a bowl or a spoon to have it, to give it to ourselves, then we need to be washing it with cold water, preferably cold water, in a sink different from there which we wash our Pesach stuff in. Okay, if that made sense to everybody. Okay. Okay. Okay, does a person need to lock their cabinets and put away all their cabinets if they'll be away all of Pesach? So the story is as follows. If I have chametz, if I have food in my cabinets and I'm selling the chametz, whether it be, well, I'm selling the chametz, then I need to mark that off in some way. I need to have some kind of built-in reminder that if someone wanders their way into the house, that's where the chametz is. Okay, and it's not mine, it's the non-Jews. So it is whatever it is. If it's the entire kitchen I'm just not dealing with, then I should tape off the entrance to the kitchen. If it's just, if it's just the third cabinet from the right, then I should just tape off the third cabinet from the right, or put a sign up or something like that. Now, if there's no food in there and there's no crumbs and it's perfectly clean plates, so I don't have to sell that, but if I'm going to be home, I really should mark it off that I shouldn't accidentally use those plates. If I'm going away for all of Pesach, I probably can just get away with putting it away and then be done with it. I hope I answered that question. Okay, the question was posed, why do we need to wear something new for Yom Tov candle lighting when we say Shechianu? So first of all, I wouldn't say you have to wear something new for Yom Tov candle lighting when you say Shechianu. I would say it's a nice thing to do, but it's not essential. Let me explain. First of all, there's no need to wear something new, not at all, when you make Shechianu the first night of Pesach. Okay. Second night of Pesach, it gets back to this question: should you be making Shechianu in the first place? So the truth is, we're very strict about it second night of Rosh Hashanah. It's a whole complicated thing. Rosh Hashanah status is unique. I don't want to take the time to get into it now. But on a regular Yom Tov, second night of Yom Tov, I do not think it's necessary to have something else for the Shechianu to go on. If a person wants to do it, kol hakavod, but I do not think it's necessary. I hope I answered that question. Person asked, containers which previously held food but now hold toys, they need to be put away. As long as they're confident there's no chametz in there, they don't need to be put away. You have to decide if it's worth your trouble to make sure there's no chametz in there. If it's obvious there's no chametz in there, or it's worth your trouble, so deal with it. But if you don't want to deal with it, put it away with the other stuff. You can just sell whatever chametz is there. I have not, Miriam, I looked at the questions, I think on Monday, I looked at the questions Monday morning at sometime on Monday. I did not look at the questions again today. Okay, you're welcome to send the questions that were sent today. Okay. Linda, I don't understand your question. Do you check on Pesach utensils or chametz utensils? What does that mean? Do you check? I'm going to keep on going, but feel free to either put in the chat to further clarify that question. Oh, I guess you did put in the questions. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so in terms of tums, we discussed already. The basic deal with lactate milk is it needs to be bought before Pesach. That's the deal with lactate milk. If it's bought before Pesach, it doesn't have to be kosher certified. Lactate pills seem to be bad news. Chewable pills are bad news, but non-chewable pills should be okay. Okay, thank you. Oh, Thank you, Linda. Sorry about that. If a person is checking romaine lettuce, if it's for a Pesach meal, I think they should check them on Pesach utensils. I think so. Okay, now the question was posed about using, hold on, body soap. I wouldn't worry about body soap being kosher to Pesach. Don't worry about it. Okay, that was one question. Deodorant based on the CRC. If it's stick deodorant, I wouldn't worry about it. If it's spray deodorant, that should be kosher to Pesach. And at least some of the examples of spray deodorant that are okay are Arid, Arid, it's specifically listed as spray deodorant is okay. Menon deodorant is okay. Secret deodorant is okay. That's the short list that I have for that. So roll-on is definitely okay, and at least Arid is good in the spray form. Okay. The grids on the gas stove that have rubber legs on them. In other words, that's not where the pot rests, but that's just sort of how the grid rests on the surface. I would say you should clean the grid well, and then I would recommend putting the burners on high for 10-15 minutes, and I would say that's good. As an added precaution, you can wait 24 hours before, since it was last used, before doing that. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Hold on. Okay. A line probiotic supplement is all right. BioFreeze cream, I wouldn't worry about cream. I would say it doesn't have to be kosher Pesach in the first place. Oh, thanks, Menashe. Thanks for that. Menashe was kind enough to find that according to the CRC, silly putty is fine. Okay, soaps we spoke about. I would still recommend just a brief conversation about vitamins, even if they're prescribed by a doctor. Very possibly we'll say it's okay, but I would just still recommend a brief conversation. I'm not ready to say each and every vitamin ever prescribed by a doctor, but I agree with you that many, many times it would be fine. Okay, bottled water for Pesach. So I did check this before, at least what the OU is saying. The OU is saying that the Costco brand, the word is escaping me, Kirkland, that the Kirkland water needs to be marked as kosher for Pesach. That's what the OU is saying. It has to do with some kind of mineral Kittenios issue or something, but that's what the OU is saying about the Kirkland water, to the best of my knowledge. Okay. Good question. Some vitamins say on it no wheat, no gluten. I'm not sure. That's good enough to assume it has no chametz. I'm not aware that it's good enough to assume it has no chametz. It's a fair question. I don't think the covering for a chametz table beneath the Pesach tablecloth needs to be waterproof. I think we should make sure the table is clean. I think you should put, some kind of cover under the. Many people put something very solid on the table, either directly on the table or directly above it, below it, whatever. Putting another layer above or below it, and then a tablecloth. The main thing is it should be clean. What it should be, though, is if it's a table that you serve hot things on, I do think it's appropriate to either have some kind of substantive layer more than a tablecloth, and if not that, maybe multiple layers. I hope I answered that question, but I don't think it has to be waterproof. Common practice is Friday night of Yom Tov, we don't sing Shalom Aleichem and Eishes Chayil. That's common practice. If the worst thing they said about me after 120 years is I sang Eishes Chayil too much, I'd feel very good. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Monday of Chol Hamoed, you can totally put out your garbage regularly. I mean, it shouldn't be chametz garbage because you shouldn't be having anything to do with chametz. But other than that, you could totally put out your chametz normal. Nothing. Yeah, the issue of dyes with salmon, complicated, all different kind of shitas. Thank you for raising it. But there are definitely those who are lenient regardless. Okay, the glass top stovetops for Pesach. The glass top stovetop for Pesach. Many different opinions about this. Rabbi was of the position that you kosher your burners in the way that we normally kosher the burners, and the glass area in between the burners, you should not put a hot pot directly on. If you want to put a hot pot on that area, you should use a trivet. But he did feel that you may use the stovetop. You just shouldn't put something specifically on the glass area in between. Just excuse me for 1 second. I'm terribly sorry. I just need to make sure this is not an emergency. I'm sorry. Okay, excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get down here. Oh, wait a second. Okay. Yeah, if a person makes a shechionim at candlelighting, they wouldn't make the shechionim at the Seder. They either make the shechionim at candlelighting or at the Kiddush of the Seder. Okay, toothpaste. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Starcase says AIM is all right as toothpaste. Close Up is all right as toothpaste. Colgate is all right for toothpaste. Pepsodent is all right for toothpaste. And Ultravite is all right for toothpaste. Colgate is probably the most popular type of toothpaste that they mentioned. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about laundry detergent. Laundry detergent should be fine. You're welcome to look at the OU in terms of other bottled water brands. You're welcome to look at the OU's guide. I'm not going to start. I'm sorry, I'm not going to start going through all the products. Okay, I don't know, but great question. If chametz is dried and ground into the carpet, do I need to do a more intensive cleaning than a regular vacuuming? If it's really dried and you can't pick it up, I don't think you have to. I don't think that's considered food form anymore. I don't think you have to worry about that. If an American is in Israel for Pesach, if an American is in Israel for Pesach, they should say Yizkar on what for them is the 8th day, even if they're saying it privately. That's what I would recommend. Okay. I think, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, that's all of the chat questions. Does anyone else have a question they would like to call out? Mrs. Sperling. You're muted, Mrs. Sperling.
The grills on my stovetop have rubber legs underneath. I can't put it in my oven under high temperature.
Right.
So how do I clean them?
You know what I would tell you? That's a good question. I would tell you that you should clean it well. Clean the grill, the grill. And then I would just put the burners on high for 10 to 15 minutes. And don't worry about the rubber legs. Don't worry about the rubber legs. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, and I can't see everybody. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself and call it out. Going once.
Real question again about the Kirkland water.
Yes.
Do you say there was Kittenios in it?
That, if I understand correctly, that's the concern.
How do we find out for sure?
The OU gives the hashgacha on the water. They said it should be marked kosher for Pesach. So don't get it without it being marked kosher for Pesach. So they know it. You and I don't need to know. We can rrely on them. You know what I mean?
Okay. No,
They're
I was
saying
just
that
wondering.
yeah.
Because I had bought the small bottles of the Kirkland under the OU, but I don't see an OUP on it.
That's right. So they're telling you that if it only has an OU, you shouldn't have it on Pesach.
Okay.
There's an
Thank you.
ingredient in the Kirkland called citrate, and that's the non-kosher thing. That's
Right. Thank you, Sima.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Hi.
Next question.
Quick question.
Yes.
Quick question, please. Does anybody know of a brand of biotin that is kosher Pesach? It's certified, but it has soybean oil. I know that's not kosher Pesach.
Okay, so if anyone does, you're welcome to put it in the chat to Elaine. I personally don't. Any other questions? Okay, I want to wish everyone a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Of course, please don't hesitate to contact me if I can be of any further assistance.
Thank you
And
very much.
Baruch Hashem, we should just all have a wonderful Yom Tiv. Of course, it's a lot of work coming into the Yom Tiv, but hopefully we can kind of keep our equilibrium between being very diligent and going overboard. And we should all just have a wonderful Yom Tiv. And take care, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam.